Hello, everybody. Long time no see, so I just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys. Um, so I know it's not the usual time that we live stream, but a bunch of stuff's happened over the past couple weeks, so I want to try to get back and do a live stream for you when I had the chance. I know I don't announce these, so it's okay if nobody watches. I just want to try to put something out there for you guys. So I want to kind of talk about something that kind of keeps resurfacing in the news, especially amongst the wrestling community. So should the United States let folk style die? Right. So this is a debate that's been going on for a long time. What's happening is the United States is the only country that really does a style that's called folk style. So um, folk style wrestling, and we do it on a large scale. This is the style that if you do high school wrestling and collegiate wrestling, this is the style that you do. And or sometimes it's called scholastic wrestling because scholastic is, you can think simply it means school, right? So this style you're going to be doing in school. And the rest of the world does freestyle, right? So that's what happens in the Olympics, different rule set, all that. So I think that they are very different. If you're into the details of wrestling, I actually prefer folk style wrestling over freestyle wrestling. I think it's much more realistic in a way where it's like you're not going to you have to fight a little bit more, right? All right, hello, thank you for making your comment. So I'll get right back to your comment in just a couple minutes. Um, so um, so I think that and so they both of these styles, freestyle and folk style, came the from catch wrestling, right? But what we have in folk style is more of these real techniques where you use to say like you would use referee's position, right? And so that means when you're on hands and knees, or sometimes in the grappling community, it's called like more like turtle. So you would have this kind of mentality where you'd be going to hands and knees. You can do reversals. You can stand back up, right? So that's more characteristic of folk style. But in freestyle, you'll have that what they call parterre, or basically you flatten yourself out, you pancake yourself out, right? So and then you wait for the ref to stand you up, or your opponent will try to either wrap your legs up into a leg lace technique and try to roll you over because you get a lot of points if you roll one person over enough times and you win the match. Or they'll try to do a gut wrench, so they'll try to get a nice hold around your waist and then again roll you over until they win, right? So that's not necessarily a way to win in folk style. So um, I personally think it would be a shame, or I think what if we got rid of folk style, because that is the argument, right? Since the world is doing freestyle, there are some proponents for freestyle in the United States that are trying to say, well, let's just completely abandon folk style, right? But I think it's easy to argue that a lot of these American, say like MMA champs and stuff, they spent a lot of time doing uh, folk style wrestling, right? So um, that's that's why I think there's value in folk style. So I don't think it should necessarily die. But if the United States wants to then be more competitive in freestyle, even though we are very competitive in freestyle, especially our men's team, the women's, we have a few really good standouts, right? But yeah, the women's freestyle is getting really dominated by other countries, in particular Japan, and actually China's moving up, um, really moving up the ranks there, really dominating. So there is that argument. If we want to win those gold medals, right, then we should abandon folk style. But the thing is, if you look back in our history, this type of mentality is what really contributed to the decline in catch wrestling. So besides the pro style, so if you leave out the pro wrestling aspect from it, then you will have the whole mentality of the Olympics when they started doing the modern day Olympics again, and they added what was called at that time amateur catch can wrestling. When they removed the submissions and stuff from amateur catch can, right, to the for the Olympics. Um, you did have people with that mentality where it's like they'll compete in any rule set to get that gold medal. So the thing is that Olympic gold medal is very valuable to many people around the world, and uh, I personally, sure I would love to win one, but if as long as those remain valuable, I think a lot of people will have that push to eliminate folk style, and so folk style has the possibility to go the way of catch wrestling. I do believe folk style is one of the better foundational styles if you want to do well in catch wrestling, because it's much more closer to catch wrestling than freestyle is, right? So let's go ahead and hear some of your thoughts, right? So Laconophile, right? It's really, let's see, it's really ironic because the original Olympics had wrestling and pancration, which was no holds barred. Yeah, I think it had to maybe had to do a lot with the mentality at that time when they restarted the modern Olympics, right? And they wanted to try to even create some kind of uh, homage to the Greeks and the Romans. But the thing is, the style that they chose to pay homage to them was French wrestling. So they took the French wrestling that was popular at that time and they renamed it to Greco-Roman, which also doesn't have submission holds and stuff, and it's just like really an upper body kind of suplex game, right? So very ironic how things develop over the years, or how things evolve over the years. Um, so uh, so even catch wrestling has its evolution from kind of a more aggressive style, or not necessarily aggressive style, but a little bit more of a like where they would add more kicks and stuff. When we're actually, I want to kind of go over that in another talk or in another live stream because there's a lot of really cool catch wrestling history that we kind of want to go over, and how catch wrestling, even though nowadays it has it's still very aggressive, but it evolved from something different, right? Okay, so let's see what Alec has to say. Folk is kind of stupid in the sense that in folk you can't body triangle or figure four. Yes. So if there, so one of the original principles of folk style, right, is to kind of create a version that was safe for children to learn. So folk style, if you look at a lot of these old collegiate videos and pictures, they were still using like these the double wrist locks or even like key locks and stuff, but they were going for pins, right? So they still allowed a lot of these things. Even some were still held when they were still trying to figure out kind of a unified rules. You know, there were even some collegiate matches that were held in rings as well, or even large mats and stuff. So there's still in the early days like all this kind of like trying to figure out things, and then but then as the rules were kind of unified and set, then we had these other things like you mentioned where yeah you can't do figure four, or yeah you can't do the figure four, but you also can't get that body lock, so you can't grasp two hands around the body, right? Which again is legal in catch wrestling, and it would be detrimental. But the thing is, so right now catch wrestling doesn't doesn't have the clout as the Olympics, right? So that's why we still have this kind of push for the elimination of folk style. Ultimately, my dream would be to if we had like the amateur version of catch wrestling, or like the children's version, where we can teach them all these like safer techniques, right? All the wrestling fundamental stuff, but like not have as many rules as folk style does, right? So you can still get that body lock. You can still be using even some of these holds to roll the person over to get them to pin. So you get two kids, really focusing on the pin aspect. a lot of the riding, right? So the leg rides and these other holds that are still very safe, and that like where little kids wouldn't necessarily get injured so much. Um, so if you had that like children's version that's a little bit more free, right, then they can easily transition to catch wrestling. So whereas like folk style is still closer, but yeah, because of some of the rules that they've added over the years, then that still kind of separates it from catch wrestling. Still a great foundation though. Let's go ahead and get to more of your questions. I think you guys are commenting here. Yeah, so Alec again commented, yeah, I think Schultz broke some guy's arm during the Olympics. Yes, so it was Dave Schultz, I believe, that got that reversal. Yeah, so that's why, that's why it's not necessarily that incident is why it was illegal, but I think it was already illegal. Right. Um, So Robbie asked, "Do you think catch wrestling will die?" Personally, I believe it will always kind of be with us, right, in some form or another. And so, Catch Wrestling Alliance is really working towards the preservation and the repopularization of the style, right? I don't think that we necessarily need to be trying to um, like ally with USA Wrestling, right? I've spoken with a lot of people who are closely involved with USA Wrestling, and they seem to be really like they really care about freestyle, right? Also, folk style or whatever, they care about that kind of stuff, but it's really all about like the freestyle stuff. So in a way, it's like they kind of got their mind set on something, uh, even though many of them might know about like Frank Gotch and catch wrestling history and all that. Right now, there's also some money to be made in freestyle. Um, we already have these uh, like these international competitions. We also have like the club competitions that are international as well. That we compete against other countries and stuff like that in freestyle. So that's already kind of like they already got a big thing going. So they don't necessarily seem too keen on anything else so much. So that's why we got to do it ourselves, really. So with that being said, then I always appreciate all whoever's watching. I appreciate your support in any way you can. We also offer of course the education stuff, or we also have the channel memberships for this channel. All that stuff is going into our promotion, but also for our events, right? So we're working on creating a network of places so we can have events quickly and easily, right? So we actually have that pretty much set up. So just continue supporting us, and we'll keep on working on that. So let's go ahead and get back to some of your questions here. Um, Let me see. So Alexander comments, catch will continue to evolve and dare I say continue to grow. I think it will. It is kind of growing. Actually, I've seen throughout the years with our, especially like since I've been pushing it a lot, we're having more and more people trying to get into it. Um, and so, but the thing is, uh, I think I talked about this when I interviewed the jiu-jitsu champion Angie. She was talking about the whole evolution of catch wrestling, or like should catch wrestling evolve and this and that. But the thing is, I think with regards to evolution of catch wrestling, that actually means a regression to the original techniques, because those ones really really work, but a lot of them are not necessarily taught today. Like I saw someone comment on this other catch wrestling organization's video, and someone was saying about like, oh, the Americans are doing all this silly stuff. I didn't. I just saw the comment. I don't know who commented that or whatever, but yeah, if people are showing a lot of show holds or stuff that are like lower percentage moves, or stuff that you wouldn't even see Farmer Burns doing, then it's gonna make us all look bad. And the thing is, we got to be really showing this real legit wrestling. This is catch wrestling uh, is legit wrestling, right? It is. Um, it has all these fundamental wrestling techniques, right? And what is the goal of that? A lot of the goal of that is putting people on their backs, right? So or escaping when someone's trying to put you on your back, right? Or if they take you down, you know how to get out, how to get a reversal. This is catch wrestling, and then that's why a lot of times in some of my, especially earlier technique videos that I put out, I really focused on those techniques, not so much the submissions, because I think that's easy to learn. A lot of people know the double wrist lock, at least how to do a basic double wrist lock, right? So you know what you guys are calling kimuras or whatever, right? So, uh, but what I don't see as much of is a lot of people doing these wrestling techniques, doing a good sit out and all that. So that's why, at least in my technique videos, I really focus on that. Okay, so Lacanophile, if a catch wrestler makes it big in the UFC again, I think it may get bigger, like Hoist Gracie did with Jiu Jitsu. Um, that is a good possibility. Um, yeah, that remains to be seen. I do think if we can show that catch wrestling is good, then I think people have to admit that it is good. And so, an example of your point is that, say, in one championship in Asia, so it's like Asia's largest MMA organization. For those who might not know, um, they have, of course, they have men's and women's divisions and multiple weight divisions and stuff. So what's been happening over the years is that people are practitioners of Sanda, right? So Chinese, actually, I'm wearing a Sanda shirt. There's a practitioners of Chinese kickboxing, which has wrestling incorporated into it. So there's a lot of wrestling style takedowns. They're winning, their divisions, right? So some Sanda champions in the men's divisions, and also some Sanda champions in the women's divisions. So from their own, all from different countries and whatnot, but they're winning, right? So because they're already really good at striking, plus they're good at takedown defense, and they can take other people down, right? So that what that led to was that one championship, they put out like a blog post or like a news post where they put out what they consider to be the top style or top martial art styles for MMA, or at least the most effective styles. And so the top four were, of course, like wrestling, um, and jiu-jitsu, of course, right? But then for the striking styles was Muay Thai and Sanda. So those were like the top four styles, and then they listed a few others, but yeah, number one, two, three, and four. I think we can kind of, since they mentioned wrestling, we can kind of infer that catch wrestling could be part of that, and I think it should be part of it because, say, like, if we talk about striking and then Muay Thai and Sanda, it's like, so you have Muay Thai, which does have some what they call dumps, right? So you can sweep out kick out somebody's leg or this and that, but it's not quite as wrestling oriented as Sanda is, where they'll have like suplexes and all that they can do, and they have a lot of catching kicks and stuff like that, which is different from Muay Thai. I kind of envision it now, someone making the comment like, "Well, Muay Thai has some takedowns." It's not exactly the same. Sanda is more wrestling oriented, right? So, um, if we take wrestling, just like that word wrestling, and then if you have a wrestling style that not only has all these reversals, these sit outs, these takedowns and whatnot, if you have the wrestling style that is cognizant and already incorporates the submission holds, right, or incorporates the control, so that you can then strike somebody, right, try to get that TKO, right, then that should be the superior style, where they then have to admit its effectiveness, right? So kind of like how Sanda is doing that. And actually, this past weekend in a UFC event, that guy Muslim Sedelnikov, I believe. I'm sure I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but he was an international Sanda champion, and he won. He did the bare minimum to win, I guess, but yeah, he was able to like catch this guy doing this Brazilian fighter doing a back spinning kick, caught him and slammed him. So, um, yeah, I think there's some validity in what you're saying with regards to whether or not we have like basically we have to kind of earn our respect in a way, and I guess Sanda is doing that, right? All right. So let's see any other questions. So your favorite, Alec is saying, my are your favorite technique neck cranks, or are they asking if I have? Oh yeah, what are my favorite neck cranks? Actually, I really do like the neck crank finish from what is it commonly called the cow catcher, right? Or we call, in England it's called half halch, right? Um, so that's when you have the one underhook, right? So it's going through the arm and around the back. Then you have the other arm under the chin, right? Or sometimes you can have it past the chin. Doesn't matter. But if, when you throw them over, right, if you keep that hand deep in there, right, then you can really crank the neck. So basically, by holding them really tightly there, it ends up cranking their neck, and you can really get that good neck crank. That one works like I don't know, like way over 90% of the time to get a submission, right? So even I'm saying that not just because I roll and teach and catch wrestling, but I also roll at jujitsu gyms and stuff too. So um, it works everywhere I go, right? So um, let me see some of your other questions. So going back to an earlier one from Alec, right, I found that most of the best techniques are actually illegal in folk style, like full Nelsons, head scissors, certain mat returns that are deemed too dangerous. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's why there's still that separation in the styles between folk style and catch wrestling. But yeah, we still have to say that that's still closer to catch wrestling than freestyle. Um, but yeah, if we can all agree to have like the the well, I don't want to say children's version of catch wrestling, or like the safer version, we can include a lot of these techniques. Full Nelson is still, I think that one would still be considered pretty dangerous, but I mean, I think it could still be taught and shown how to get out of or how to escape. It's just because like a long time ago there were a lot of people who damaged other people's necks using that technique, so that's why it still kind of has still has that stigma attached to it. All right, so all right, let's go ahead and see any more of your other questions. Yeah, so thank you, Laconophile, for enjoying the videos. Really appreciate it. Oh, and you trained with Billy Scott, who was trained by Billy Robinson. That's really good. Um, I was trained by Billy Robinson too. I had the privilege of going to train with him also in Arkansas where he lived before he passed. That was really one of the best experiences that I had. Um, how can you find a place in Atlanta? In Atlanta, I would say you're close enough if you want to try to make the road trip to South Carolina. Go talk to John Strickland over there. He's teaching at a gym. Um, I'm not sure of the name of the town, but um, it could be easily South Carolina. Really, he's the authority on the East Coast. You should really train with him if you have the chance, and maybe you can arrange something where it's like you go every weekend or every other weekend or something like that. Go when you have the chance. Especially right now, I don't know if how things are going. LA just or California just announced that the gyms and stuff have to close, so you're gonna have more. You might have more time on your hands. I don't know what your state's doing, so take advantage and maybe try to go train. Um, Yeah, as far as I understand, yeah, it's a little bit of a road trip, but you can do it. It's worth it. Yeah, I don't really know anybody there in Atlanta, or I don't know of anybody. All right. So if you are in Atlanta, though, again, might as well throw it out there that yeah, we do have online uh, Catch Wrestling Alliance Academy courses that you can learn like a lot of basically you can learn catch wrestling online, and you know we have access. You have access to me. I can always answer your questions. I've been doing that a lot for the students. Um, so does anybody have other thoughts about folk style? Do you think we should ultimately get rid of folk style? It'd just be sad to see it go. I kind of prefer folk style over freestyle anyway, but I see how like it's one of these things where it's like the rest of the world is doing it. So um, let's see here, like let's just switch over. We had like that one famous wrestler, or well, at least well known, Aaron Pico. He just focused on freestyle, and then he didn't. He decided to even not go to college for it, and then he later went to Bellator to fight. Um, so, we have all these different things because of that. So like Titan Mercury, that wrestling school, they do really they're one of the teams that would compete in these international club freestyle tournaments. So they're a big school. So and they had a lot of funding. I know they had a I don't know if you guys follow it that much, but I've met a lot of these people. So one of their main people, I won't name the name, but the money man for Titan Mercury, had had a run in with the law in his past and all that. So um, they've had some changes there. But either way, even from knowing these people, I know that there was a lot of money involved in international freestyle. So a lot of people want to be doing it, right? So if you can get on that level where you're competing in these world world competitions, there's a lot of prize money, right? So I don't know if we're going to be seeing these types of like USA Wrestling or these clubs that are these well moneyed clubs. If they I don't know if they'd even care too much about what we're doing. All right, so I think it's looking like my phone battery is dying, starting to kind of look strange. So I think we're gonna have to call it a day here for this one. But go ahead and comment below. Continue commenting. Let me know what you'd like us to talk about. And so hope to see you soon. Hope you guys find a way to train safe and not with too many people. All right. So stay safe and healthy. Thanks.